Buy to let, thatched, commercial. We're your high street insurance brokers for all types of insurance. Avoid faceless internet firms.
High House Insurance, do it face to face.
See Neil and the friendly team at High Street Selsey.
High House Insurance, do it face to face.
Or call Selsey 606 552.
Hello again, this is Mary Kennedy welcoming you to this week's programme. We have another interview with Mike Nichols, followed by an update on Arts Dream 100. Then a letter to the bank from an elderly lady, and Ellisberg's review of Cold Comfort Farm. Giles is here again with gardening tips, and Lynn has this week's recipe. There is a final track from The Essentials, and an interview with a member of Link, Ladies in Contact, and another story from the Selsey Scribblers. This week's thought for the day is from Bruce Allinson. So, over to Mike Nichols.
Hello Mike, good morning. I'm glad you've come in today to talk about things. There's a lot of concern about the elderly and the unwell being lonely, but I believe something is going on in Selsey which actually can do a lot to ease that situation. Can you tell us something about it?
Yes, good morning Thea. As I think you'll appreciate, as our listeners will, Esther Ranson has on a national scale recently launched a helpline that can assist people who perhaps are lonely. They can ring that at any time, partly to get advice, but also if they sort of want to hear a human voice, then there is that national possibility. And so the issue of loneliness, which is a major challenge amongst our senior friends, has been on the agenda. And recently in Selsey we've had 2 or 3 meetings which have gathered together representatives of the various organisations which already do a great deal to provide opportunities for people to get together and to share in activities, as well as those who transport them, representatives of the medical practices, the fire service, the community warden. They've all been there. And we've been trying to see whether there are further things that could be done to offer people support and the opportunity for help in these situations.
At the moment, is there anywhere that people who are really lonely, when they reach that point where I just want to speak to somebody, is there anywhere they can go? A phone number somewhere they can contact? Do you know of anywhere?
Yes, I think at the moment what we find in a place like Selsey is that there are an enormous number of activities and gatherings and organisations to which people can go. And of course with the venture bus and the community bus, there are opportunities for them to have travel. There are the taxi firms and so on. So there are lots of things already going on that people can go to, but they tend to be sort of time specific. So you can go to this group on a Monday and that one on a Tuesday, that kind of thing. What I think we're trying to do at the moment is 2 or 3 things. We're trying to sort of coordinate what goes on so that everyone knows about it. So we're going to produce a little leaflet detailing the contacts that people can phone if they'd like to go to a particular group or organisation. We're working with the medical practices and our community warden, because they get people referred to them by concerned relatives, that kind of thing. So for instance, this week I had a phone call from a daughter who's got a mother in her 90s who would like someone to go in and read to her once a week some poetry or stories, because that's what she enjoys. Macular degeneration means that she can't do it for herself now. So we've actually got someone going in this week. And so we've got a little group of individuals who are training to be befrienders in order to offer that kind of facility, alongside lots of other groups who already do it. We are contemplating learning from the Royal Naval Association, who sometimes get their members together on a conference phone call to keep in touch, to see whether we can set up a phone line in Selsey that people can phone if they are concerned, or if they just want to hear a human voice. But also we might look at to see whether we can emulate something that happens in Glasgow, where they have a thing called Good Morning Glasgow, where an organisation will phone people up, if they would like that, just have a chat with them each morning and get the day off to a good start, with a human voice in that kind of way. So there are a number of things that are being planned and considered, and which very soon will sort of be well publicised, which are just attempting to do that little bit more than is already going on in our community to try and meet the need.
I think that is extremely important. I don't know if you would agree with me, but if you're in a state of real loneliness, it is very hard for the person themselves to reach out and say, I want someone to care. So I do feel that the important thing is for everybody to be aware of the lady next door, the old man down the road, the young girls struggling with children. And I think, from what you're saying with the Royal Naval Association, something like that would be ideal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think at the heart we're talking about good neighbourliness, aren't we, really, in any community,
yes,
and having a mutual concern for our sort of fellow human beings. As you rightly say, some people do find it hard to take an initiative, and this is why we've got, a referral line. If people give their permission, then, someone else can make that call and we can try and help them. It's also why we're looking at trying to see whether, a lot of the people who receive Meals on Wheels, for instance, in their own home, might be able to come together somewhere to kind of have a shared meal and have human company while they're, eating, that kind of thing. A lot of people who find Sunday the loneliest day of the week because sort of everything closes down, apart from church and, that kind of thing. I know some people now do get together to go out on a Sunday for lunch together and enjoy one another's company. And it's just trying to encourage those kinds of neighbourly things that may just take away the edge of loneliness and help people who particularly are living on their own.
I think that's wonderful, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike. And now to ArtStream.
This is Nick Jones, Selsey Internet Radio. I'd like to tell you about this ArtStream Selsey 100 Club. The purpose of starting this 100 Club is to provide a small regular income to ArtStream Selsey, which will enable them to work in partnership with voluntary sector communities, schools, agencies and artists to encourage, develop, create and produce and promote arts activities for the community of Selsey, and to bring them all under one umbrella for insurance purposes and create a little bit of excitement at the forums. Membership to ArtStream Selsey is free, but membership to the 100 Club will be £12 per year. This will entitle members to partake in 4 quarterly draws per year at 4 pre-selected ArtStream forums. This is how it works. Members shall be entitled upon payment of a subscription of cash or a cheque to the value of £12, payable to ArtStream Draw 100 Club, being 1 year's subscription to partake in 4 quarterly draws, or at the organiser's discretion, a percentage of the subscription based on the number of draws remaining before the AGM of the member promises to pay in full the following year. On receipt of payment, the member will be given a number, and at the quarterly forum all the members' draw numbers will be placed in a bag and 3 will be drawn out. If all 100 memberships are subscribed to, the total input will be £1,200, of which 25%, £300, goes into ArtStream's funds, leaving 75%, that's £900, to be distributed throughout the year as prize money. If all 100 memberships are not taken up, the total input will be apportioned in the same percentages. Note, the last year of the draw of the year at the AGM, the prize money is doubled. A prize draw will take place 4 times a year at 4 quarterly forums. Prize money will be apportioned 50% first prize, 30% second prize, and 20% third prize. The total prize money being in accordance with the 100 Club paid membership at that time. Any questions? If you have, contact any member of the ArtStream Club. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
And a bank letter.
This is Nicholas Jones, Selsey Internet Radio. I thought you might be interested in hearing of a letter that was recently written to one of our banks. It was written by an elderly lady, and the manager thought it might amuse you. Dear Sir, I am writing to thank you for bouncing my cheque, with which I endeavoured to pay my plumber last month. By my calculations, 3 nanoseconds must have elapsed between his presenting the cheque and the arrival in my account of the funds needed to honour it. I refer, of course, to the automatic monthly deposit of my pension, an arrangement which, I admit, has been in place for only 8 years. You are to be commended for seizing that brief window of opportunity, and also for debiting my account £30 by way of penalty for the inconvenience caused to your bank. My thankfulness springs from the manner in which this incident has caused me to rethink my errant financial ways. I notice that, whereas I personally attend to your telephone calls and letters when I try to contact you, I am confronted by the impersonal, overcharging, re-recorded, faceless entity which your bank has become. From now on, I, like you, choose only to deal with a flesh and blood person. My mortgage and loan payments will therefore and hereafter no longer be automatic, but will arrive at your bank by cheque, addressed personally and confidentially to an employee at your bank with whom you must nominate. Be aware that it is an offence for the Postal Act for any person to open any such envelope. Please find attached an application and contact status which I require your chosen employee to complete. I'm sorry it runs to 8 pages, but in order that I know as much about him or her as your bank knows about me, there is no alternative. Please note that all copies of his or her medical history must be countersigned by a solicitor, and the mandatory details of his/her financial situation, income, debts, assets and liabilities, must be accompanied by documented proof. In due course, I will issue your employee with a PIN number which he or she must quote in dealings with me. I regret that it cannot be shorter than 28 digits, but again I have modelled it on the number of button presses required of me to access my account balance on your phone bank service. As they say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Let me level the playing field even further. When you call me, press buttons as follows. 1. To make an appointment to see me. 2. To query a missing payment. 3. To transfer the call to my living room in case I am there. 4. To transfer the call to my bedroom in case I am sleeping. 5. To transfer the call to my toilet in case I am attending to nature. 6. To transfer the call to my mobile phone if I am not at home. 7. To leave a message on my computer. A password to access my computer is required. A password will be communicated to you at a later date due to the authorised contact. 8. To return to the main menu and to listen to options 1 through 8 again. 9. To make a general complaint or inquiry. The contact will then be put on hold, pending the attention of my automated answering service. While this may on occasion involve a lengthy wait, uplifting music will play for the duration of the call. Regrettably, but again following your example, I must also levy an establishment fee to cover the setting up of this new arrangement. May I wish you a happy, if ever so slightly less prosperous New Year. Wasn't that wonderful? Remember, this letter was written by a 98-year-old woman. Doesn't she make you proud?
Here's Alice's review of Cold Comfort Farm.
Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons, and how I envy you if you've never read Cold Comfort Farm. You now have the rest of your life to enjoy this masterpiece of wit, humour and gentle satire. How do you feel about Thomas Hardy, D.H. Lawrence, Mary Webb? Mary Webb? Precious Bane, a somewhat turgid version of the overwrought rural novel to which my mother-in-law was addicted, and for which Gibbons was a delightful and fanciful antidote. Now look, if you want to read about this novel, a really good introduction, then buy the paperback classic and read Lynn Truss's introduction. Yes, I know that's a sort of circular thing, so I'll do my best, my little best, right now. The book, written in 1932 and is Stella Gibbons' first novel, is set in the future and starts in expensively fashionable Lambeth. It is from there that Flora Post, newly orphaned at 20, expensively educated, seeks relatives with whom she might live for a while. Eventually, such a one she discovers is the guilt-ridden Judith Starkadder of Cold Comfort Farm in Howling in Sussex. She has the habit, along with the rest of the family, of addressing her as Robert Post's child. The head of the family is Aunt Ada Doom. There's a farmhand called Adam Lambsbreath who does the washing up with a twig of a thorn bush, or as he called it, clattering the dishes, or clattering the pots, and he also cooks the porridge in a snood. Until Flora buys him a little mop, which really makes him so grateful. Folk are deeply affected when the sookbine flowers, especially Miriam, the maid. Well, maid, she's had 4 illegitimate children. It takes Flora a good half an hour to suggest how Miriam could avoid having children without avoiding anything else. There's one Elfine, a sort of Wordsworthian figure, who wanders over the downs and is regularly thrown down the well. The cows, Harkaway, Caraway and Feckless, have already fallen down it. Gibbon gives a warning when she is about to go all literary by putting 1 or 2 asterisks at the top of the paragraph or chapter. There is a character straight out of Lawrence, Seth Starkadder. Well, he's almost right out. It turns out he's really more interested in going to the pictures. And that is something that Flora Post works on and helps him. On his first entrance, the porridge boils over. His father, Amos Starkadder, is a tin chapel preacher whose hellfire sermons, "Oh, you miserable sinners," are a joy to all, that is, the quivering brethren. His description of hell is simple, homely, and horrifying. The first critics who read this book asserted that the true author was Evelyn Waugh. This was an acceptable mistake in the first chapters. They do sound faintly reminiscent of his novel Vile Bodies, but her clarity of style should delight lovers of Jane Austen. But the satire, oh, the relish with which she invents Sussex dialect. Reuben, the only sane member of the family, suddenly bursts forth, "Let a murksy capsy word to use to a man who has nursed a farm like a sick mummet, and a man who knows every inch of soil and a patch of sookbine in the place." And the matriarch, Ada Doom, is the one who saw something nasty in the woodshed. To which Flora Post replies, "Did it see you?" Stella Gibbons wrote a series of Cold Comfort Farm books, and you'll have to go to the library to get them out, I think. Certainly you can get the taste there. And I've just finished the book yet again.
Thank you, Ellis. Now, Giles Pear's gardening tips for the week.
We've got the Selsey gardener back in the studio, Giles Pear. Good afternoon, Giles. What have you got for us now?
Good afternoon, Hugh. Right, we're progressing into the middle of the month now and out and about.
So this is February the 16th?
Yeah, we're on to the 16th now, mid-month now, yeah. Some trees and shrubs still are bearing very showy and scented flowers. The early ones, like that haven't come into full leaf, but they're still what I call the late winter flowering shrubs, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
And they also attract pollen. They attract any early insects which are around now for pollinating purposes. And another little interesting thing is the first gardening tools, going back thousands of years, I'm talking about 40,000 years or more ago, mattocks made from sheep's horns tied to sticks.
Okay.
They were the original mattocks. Dibbers were a mammoth's ribs.
Yeah.
And shovels were shoulder blades from an ox.
Really?
This is the original gardening tools. Another little fact is this, that the world record for the largest number of different fruits on a tree is 5.
5.
5 different fruits on one tree, and the fruits are cherry, nectarine, apricot, plum and peach, all on one tree.
So what was the stock then? Or would it be all on an apple tree?
What the stock is, I don't know what the original, but this was done in Chile in 2000.
Right.
And it was grafted to a root stock, but the stock, I don't know what the stock would have been. I haven't a clue. But this man, he still holds that record for that tree.
Really?
Which is those 5 fruits on it. It's amazing to think about, even, isn't it? Looking out at side and seeing all those on one tree.
Must have been quite a big tree, wasn't it?
Must be good size.
Yeah.
Also, the climate there is quite equable, quite warm, isn't it? So
yeah. I can remember when I was at school, there was a wonderful Cox's apple tree, and it had split open in the big fork of the tree.
Yeah, I know.
And a gooseberry bush had taken root in the split.
Really?
And it was a huge gooseberry bush. It must have been, 2 or 3 feet in diameter?
How interesting.
And it was quite good, so we would have apples and gooseberries off the side.
That's a nice mixture anyway.
But it wasn't a graft or anything.
No, it just happened.
I've never seen before or since a gooseberry tree which is obviously a parasite.
No,
it was in that case anyway.
No, it was. I've never heard of it. Never ever. Well, how interesting though.
Yeah.
I said that would have made a nice pie. And right, if you repot any overwintered pelargoniums now, because in fresh pots of compost, and give them a little water to get them moving again. If people are interested, like asparagus, this is a good time to prepare.
Oh, I love asparagus.
If you want to grow it, prepare a new asparagus beds around now. Actually, prepare the beds now. They need plenty of manure and fertilizer, obviously.
Yeah.
Plant 1-year-old crowns.
Right.
And then you should have a crop. Probably not next year. Sometimes next year, possibly more likely the year after.
Okay. So can you shorten the cycle by having older crowns?
You can, but it's not advisable. They don't really do that well.
Really?
No.
Okay, fine. So 1-year crowns.
1-year crowns and
you can expect a crop 2 years later.
Well, yes, exactly. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And also, it's a good time now to sow some lettuce, spinach, and radish in the greenhouse.
So, how big an asparagus plot would you?
Well, I wouldn't recommend, because it depends. You could grow a dozen.
Yeah.
Or you could grow 2 dozen. I mean, they're not that. They don't take they're not enormous plants, as you know, but they're big enough.
Yeah.
So I would say, obviously it's dependent on the size of the garden and how much you like asparagus, obviously.
Well, I adore it, don't you?
So therefore, if you adore it, then use half your veg flour on it if you want, because they're not as much trouble as some other things.
Yeah.
So once you've cut, they don't need so much.
Asparagus cut fresh in the garden is beautiful.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, down this part of the world, there's quite a lot of this Sussex is well known for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
For an early asparagus. Right, we're now into the last bit of this week, and I would like to suggest clean any algae. Get it with a hose or whatever you're going to do with from steps, paths, and paving. This is a good time of year to do that. And also, but remember that when you're planting up we'll be doing in the next month, you're planting flowers and whatever, don't forget night scented flowers, because they're lovely obviously they have their own course, because when you're going out in the evening, it's lovely to have some scents in the garden. And also they do provide pollination for moths.
Uh-huh.
They do the same as the butterflies do on the day flowers.
Yeah, okay.
And some of the nicest ones, even to grow for scent in the are sweet rocket, evening primrose, nicotiana, i.e. tobacco plant, dog rose and white jasmine. They're all very, very good for evening scent. So I'd say try and get some evening scent when you're planning ahead a bit now.
Okay.
And then enjoy the evenings.
All right.
It's nice, and especially in the summer, to go out and have this if you're having a late barbecue or something.
All right. Yeah, I tell you what, John. When you come in either next week or the week after, could we talk about how to get rid of moss out of the lawn? And could we also talk about, I've got a small colony of mind your own business, which is attacking my lawn, and I'm told it's really difficult to get rid of. There's a thought. That's something for you to think about.
It is.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks a lot, Giles. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Giles. Lynn's shepherd's pie sounds just right for this miserable weather.
Good morning, David Kennedy for Selsey Internet Radio, and I'm with Lynn Reve, and we're looking today at what, Lynn?
A shepherd's pie, David. A lot of people don't really know the difference between shepherd's pie and cottage pie. So this week we're going to do the shepherd's pie, and then next week we'll follow on with the cottage pie.
Okay.
Good old standard favourite. So for your shepherd's pie, and the difference is that the shepherd's pie is lamb and cottage pie is beef, and that really is it. So, but although I do them slightly differently with the fillings. So here we go then. 500 grams of a good quality minced lamb. And do go for quality rather than quantity with lamb. You don't want anything that's going to spew out too much water or fat at you. So a good quality minced lamb, 500 grams, 1 red onion, 2 carrots, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 400 gram tin of tomatoes, that's a large tin, a small little few bits of rosemary if you can get it. You can buy it from supermarkets these days if you haven't got any in the garden anywhere. Olive oil, just a splash, and 250 mils of stock, lamb or veg. You can, of course, if you're not the kind of person that keeps stock at any point, you can buy stock cubes today, so that's just as good. A little dash of sea salt and black pepper. And for the mashed potato, we're going to want 1.5 kilograms of Desiree potatoes. Desiree are the best ones for mash in the world. 100 mils of semi-skimmed milk and a large knob of butter. Anybody that does want this recipe can come into the shop and I will hand it out to them, alright? We're going to start with peel and roughly chop your onion and your carrots, and trim and roughly chop your celery. I didn't put celery in there, but just 1 stalk of celery is quite enough for this. Sorry, I didn't put that in the ingredients. Just to trim and roughly chop your celery, or onion if you're going to use onion instead. Peel and finely chop your garlic cloves. Pick your rosemary leaves and discard the stalk. And heat a large pan on a medium heat. Add a good lug of olive oil, alright? And add the onion, the celery, the garlic and most of the rosemary leaves, and simmer them for 10 minutes so that you get that good old, let it permeate. Is your mouth watering yet, David?
It is.
It looks like it is. Alright, so for about 10 minutes let all those flavours permeate each other. Cook for 10 minutes until it's all softened, and then turn the heat up at this stage, and then add your minced lamb and brown that off for 10 minutes. Use a sieve then to drain away any excess liquid, and when you've done that, add your tin of tomatoes. So you've got this quite firm filling mix, alright? You pour in your stock, season it well with your salt and pepper to taste, bring to the boil, and reduce the heat, pop the lid on, but leave the lid slightly ajar. Do you know what I'm saying? So that you've got the steam can escape.
Yeah.
And you simmer it very slowly on a very low heat for about an hour. It needs a good hour to get all those flavours enhanced in there.
Yeah.
You're going to put your mashed potatoes on to boil while that's doing. They take about 20-25 minutes. Let them boil, turn them down, simmer them. Now, when I say simmer, I don't mean low simmer, I mean simmer your potatoes. Don't let them go to mash in the pan. They can do sometimes if you cook them too much. So about 20 minutes. Then take them off the heat. Mash them down with your knob of butter and your milk. Give them a really good smooth mash. A good way is to use the soup. So I use these days to get a really lovely...
Oh, the blender.
The blender. Yes, that's it. I use the blender these days because my hands aren't as young as they used to be, and get a really good smooth mash. Put it over the top of your mixture in an oven-proof dish. put it over the top. You can put your little fork lines in and make it look nice and fluffy on the top, and it will go brown. You could actually drizzle olive oil over the top as well, because that helps the potato go nice and brown. And then cook it off for about 25 minutes. I was talking to David earlier, and you did mention that you can put cheese on top, can't you?
Yes, I've seen that done.
Yeah, you could put cheese on top if you wanted to, but with this dish there is no need to. You're going to have all those flavours of the lamb and the rosemary and the garlic and everything else, and you're not going to really want cheese on top of it. So it's a good old standard meal. It does take slightly longer than my other recipes, but it is well worth it. So that's your shepherd's pie.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Lovely. Now we can hear the last track from the Essentials CD, followed by the interview with a member of Link.
Hello, this is Nick Jones, Selsey Internet Radio. Today I'm in the lovely lounge of Mary Grantham, who has been running the Link for the last 14 and a half years. Now, I'm going to ask Mary what Link's all about and what it stands for. So over to you, Mary.
Right, thank you. Well, Link is an abbreviation of Ladies in Contact. We spell it L-I-N-C, so that the L is for ladies, in, and C for contact. Although we are St Peter's Church organisation, we welcome all ladies who are looking for an interesting and relaxing evening among friends. That's the sort of thing we do.
And what sort of evenings, how many evenings do you do?
We meet on the third Thursday of each month, except August and December. In October we have our birthday party, and the rest of the meetings we have a speaker. We have a variety, a lot of them are local. For instance, this year we've got Monique Turk from the Cat and Rabbit and one or two other locals. We've got a speaker coming in February whom we've had several times before. Yeah, we have just a variety.
And how many of you in the group at the moment?
It's difficult to say because they don't have to join. They just come along when they want to.
Oh, I see. There's no joining fee.
They don't have to join anything.
And how much do you pay when you come on?
They just pay their £1.50 when they arrive. For that, they get a cup of tea or coffee and a biscuit and a raffle ticket.
And where do you meet?
In St Peter's Church Hall.
Oh, behind the church, yeah.
Yeah, 7:15 in the evening. We try and finish about 9. We have the venture bus. In fact, we have two most months because quite a lot come on the venture bus. It's very handy and they help us a lot.
So it depends really on the weather, really. If it's a bad night, you don't get so many.
We do get, we average, I should say, about 35.
Oh, every week, every month.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's excellent.
Yeah,
that
not
is.
bad, is it?
No, that's excellent.
It's been up and down. It went right down for a while and we thought, oh dear, what's gone wrong? And then it gradually picked up, and most of it is by word of mouth.
Yeah. So if people want to join, is there any telephone number they can ring to find out details?
They can give me a ring on 604 718, or Belle Fletcher, who is now taking the meetings for me. Her number is 603 750.
Lovely. So you've been doing it for 14 and a half years.
Yes, don't forget the half.
Don't forget the half. So you're going to put in the reins over to somebody else now,
yes,
are you?
Yes. If I can go back, started in 1992, and the then rector of St Peter's Church, Reverend Victor Cassam, and he thought it would be a good idea to have an organisation for ladies to meet in the evening, and he asked Mari, who used to do a lot for the church, Mari Latchford, if she would start it up, which she did most successfully. That's it. It's been going now for in our 22nd year.
But you don't have to be a churchgoer to go.
No, we welcome any lady who wants to come along.
No men then?
No, only the speaker usually.
That's why L is for ladies and not men.
We did have one lady who joined. I know she won't mind me saying this. I won't mention any names, but she'll know. I forget who our speaker was. I'm going back many, many years because she's been on my team now, helping me for a long time. She apparently saw the speaker advertised and said to her husband, "Oh, that sounds good, let's go." And he turned up and somebody said to her, "You know, it's only ladies," and he was most embarrassed. And I don't remember the actual evening, but anyway, he is lovely, and it was quite funny, but no. The odd gentleman does turn up, okay, but
yes,
it is just for ladies.
Absolutely.
Get away and have a good evening on their own.
That's right. Yeah, get away from the men.
Well, that's right.
Exactly. That's the best thing to do. Well, Mary, thank you very much indeed. I think you've been very concise and clear about what it's all about.
You're very welcome.
Now, you want obviously more people to come and join you.
We're always happy to welcome more people.
So let's say it again. So it's on the third Thursday
each month, except August and December.
And it's held in St Peter's Hall.
St Peter's Church Hall, 7:15 to round about 9ish.
And let's repeat the telephone numbers again.
Right. My number is 604 718, and Belle Fletcher who is taking the meetings now and has taken over all the secretarial side of it and that sort of thing. She is on 603750.
Lovely.
And we'd be very pleased to help.
So there's one coming up this month, February. Yes, we're in February.
Third Thursday in February.
Do you know who the speaker is?
Yes, Roger Clark.
Yes.
His talk is called Books on Wheels, and it's to do with mobile library.
Mobile library,
and
yeah.
we've had him before, and he is quite amusing.
Good, excellent.
And if any new lady comes along, please make themselves known as they come in and say, I'm new, and we will immediately find someone to talk to them and make them feel welcome.
That's lovely. Well, thank you very much indeed, Mary, for your time.
Okay.
Very grateful to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye then.
Here is a story from the Selsey Scribblers.
We have Thea Foot back in the studio with another story from Nicola Aspin, who won the second prize in the recent Selsey Scribblers short story competition. Sorry, I must call it the Selsey Writers Circle. Thea, you're going to read the story. Tell us, what's it called?
The Mutton Queen.
The what?
The Mutton Queen.
Okay.
It was dislike at first sight. How would you feel if someone, a complete stranger, waltzed into the place you'd called home for 40 years and proceeded to find fault with everything in it? Oh, she was clever though, I'll give her that. She worked on my husband Ron by degrees. The best way to work on any man, I suppose, if you want your own way. At first, this woman, who goes by the fanciful name of Sherry, parents fond of a tipple, no doubt, pretended to admire everything in my home. She called my collections of thimbles and dolls in their national costumes quaint. But it wasn't long before she was wondering if they were unhygienic dust traps. Then she declared the dolls spooked her, that she felt their little glass eyes were spying on her, and the next thing they'd gone, all of them, bundled into one of those charity bags. Worse was to come. She then had the gall to say she didn't care for Cliff Richard and my lifetime collection of Cliff LPs. Memorabilia was whisked away. I was seething, furious, incandescent with rage. But neither she nor that sap Ron took a blind bit of notice, though neither of them, I noticed, could quite meet my eye afterwards. I blame him, my husband Ron. He must have employed this Sherry, though in what capacity I've yet to work out. She can't cook, she's allergic to housework, and if she's here to help me, she never consults me about anything. Maybe she's some kind of interior decorator, though how Ron thought I'd ever approve of her choices is beyond me. When it comes to decorating, she's minimalist. Her colour palette is limited to all shades of mushroom. Her furniture has to be brand new. When she installed a hideous smoke glass coffee table with corners sharp enough to decapitate a midget, I immediately plastered it with fingerprints, just to show her how impractical it was, though she, imperfect housewife that she is, failed to notice. What was wrong with my Axminster? I wanted to shout. That pattern of brown swirls has been serviceable for 35 years. And while the springs might have gone in my sofas, the upholstery, a riot of pink cabbage roses and brown leaves, was a treat. My curtains, swags and pelmets might have faded, but they were still a beautiful shade of daffodil yellow. I was particularly fond of the wallpaper too, with its smart gold stripes, sprigs of pearl lavender. Then there were the little lace doilies on all my occasional tables, and the occasional tables themselves. Gone! All of them. I watched the men she'd employed lugging all my belongings out of the house and replacing them with hers. Stood there with my arms crossed, scowling, while they wiped the space clean of all personality. I didn't say a word. I was waiting and watching for the right time, the exact perfect moment to pitch in and take the wind right out of her sails. After the men had gone, Sherry was so exhausted she had to sit with her feet up, waiting for a cup of tea, courtesy of Ron. Since when did he wait on anyone? Many's the time I've been gasping for a cuppa, but I've been perished of thirst. I'd have died before it occurred to Ron to bring me one. He knew it was my job as a wife to take care of him, not the other way around. I looked around at my lounge. It was unrecognisable. Every scrap of furniture had been replaced, every floral motif plastered and painted over, obliterated like concrete over a verdant field. Grudgingly, I had to admit that the room appeared more spacious now, and clean, too. All right, if you're the type to admire the sort of clinical spaciousness you would find in a dentist's waiting room. Only it was not. Ron crept into our new lounge, tea slopping from the cup into the saucer. I threw him a withering look. "What's on the agenda?" he asked Sherry. "Bedroom," she said. I bristled. Was that the capacity Ron had employed her in? Evidently not, for he said he'd leave her to it, and so it was Sherry alone I followed up the stairs and into the master bedroom the following morning. Tramping up the stairs after her, I couldn't fail to notice the way that woman dresses is verging on the indecent. You should see the length of her skirts, and the size of her knickers. Knickers? Oh, don't make me laugh. Knickers should be substantial garments, reaching chastely to the waist, the legs long enough to keep out cold draughts. Like mine, in fact, and not a bit like the contraptions of dental floss and triangle sherry flavours. I stood still. I watched as she went through my drawers, quite literally, stuffing every single one of my capacious undergarments into black bags, a little smile twitching at her nasty, thin-lipped mouth. Now, I have always had a fondness for red, and I have used it abundantly about my home, along with every other shade of the rainbow, but I have never liked the unnatural fuchsia hue decorating Sherry's lips. I told her so. "Oh, you must be 60 if you're a day," I said. "Have you never heard the old saying about mutton and lamb?" She heard that at any rate. Catching a glimpse of herself in the dressing table mirrors, wiping off the offending lipstick, only to replace it with a shade of orange that would have made a Satsuma blush. I sighed, and I went to work on Ron instead. I found him slouching, or trying to slouch, in one of the new leather armchairs, staring off into space. Everything about my Ron is soft and insubstantial. An unkind person might describe him as spineless, but in fact he is more slug-like. His body is comforting and unthreatening as a feather bolster. His mind equally so. He is a man of few opinions, and none of them very firmly rooted. He's always been one to accept another's judgment. Consequently, we have always got along swimmingly, until now. I opened my mouth, ready to interrogate him on what the interior decorator person was doing sorting through my personal belongings, when he murmured my name. "Jane, Jane, Jane." "What?" "Oh, Jane, what made you do it?" This was a bit rich. After all, I should have been asking him the very same thing. Oh, but he looked so forlorn. Instead of ticking him off, I found myself perching on the edge of that slippery armchair, putting my arms around him instead. He jumped up as if a wasp had stung him, but not before I noticed that his previously well-padded body had deflated somewhat. He shook himself, his mind working along the same lines as mine, and called up the stairs. "What's for lunch, Sherry?" "Whatever you can rustle up, Ron," came the reply. Now, what kind of an answer was that? Ron has never been a dab hand in the culinary department. The most he can rustle up without guidance is a bit of bread and cheese, or a boiled egg. And even then I've always sat holding my breath, waiting for the yell as he nicks himself with a bread knife or scalds himself on a hot pan. What Ron needed was one of my steak and kidney puddings, or a hearty fry-up. And Sherry should be getting off her bony buttocks and preparing it for him. Well, if she wasn't going to, it would doubtless be down to me. But when Ron opened the fridge and peered inside for inspiration, I was shocked to see nothing in it but what I'd class as rabbit food. Whole shelves were blossoming with green stuff, cluttered with health-giving spreads, bottles of cholesterol-lowering drinks and low-fat yogurts. To my astonishment, Ron gathered a handful of leaves and prepared a salad, sprinkling it with what looked like birdseed and setting out 2 plates on the table. Evidently I wasn't invited and wouldn't have accepted if I had been. I sat there at the head of the table watching as the pair of them, my daft husband and his interfering interior decorator, sat munching. Luckily I didn't feel hungry anyway. "Feeling full now, are you, dear?" I said smugly to Ron as he pushed his plate away. "No room for a nice cream cake or a couple of naughty donuts?" "Full up," he nodded, and Sherry's tangerine lips smiled approvingly across the table at him. "How are you feeling?" she asked him. "About all the changes I've been making?" "Oh, okay now. I needed a shaking up a bit. I'm stuck in a rut. That's what I was. And quite happy in that rut," I reminded him. "Like a pig in muck you were, wallowing in that rut, as you called it." "In fact," Ron beamed, "I feel like a new man. I've got a new woman after all." I was so still, so shocked. I could feel the air molecules vibrating around me. So that's what this was all about. Ron had chosen this Sherry, the Mutton Queen, as his new woman. I was no longer wanted. I was redundant. There comes a time when one has to face facts and to tell the truth. Along with the disappointment and hurt, I felt a kind of liberation. No more toiling, working my fingers to the bone for that big lump of a husband. I could knit all day if I chose, with my feet up on a leatherette buffet, a box of jellied fruits at my elbow, watching wall-to-wall soaps, Cliff crooning on the hi-fi. One thing still bothered me, though. "How did you meet her?" I demanded. "Did you get her off the internet? Bump into her on a street corner? Pick her up off the floor in the Dog and Duck?" "It's fate." Sherry's peroxide head bobbed. "Just think, if you hadn't joined the salsa class, we would never have met." "You're having a joke," I said. "Ron's got 2 left feet. Whenever he takes to the dance floor, he clears it. Last time I let him dance, at Kath's wedding, he tripped himself up and sent the bride's mother flying." "Salsa? I don't think so." "Yes, salsa," said Ron. "Jane always told me I had 2 left feet. She banned me from dancing, said I was a laughing stock. But Jane has gone. You have a new life now." "I've gone nowhere," I told Sherry.
But when they held hands across the table, I knew I was beaten. If Ron was to lead his own life, I was free to choose my own path, and choose it I did. Without a backward glance, I walked straight through the back door and away. I felt a strange lightness of spirit as I left, a surge of happiness intoxicating as champagne bubbles. Sherry tilted her head thoughtfully. She's gone. I think she finally accepted the inevitable, Ron said. It's been over a year since the accident, the day she stepped off the pavement, summer holiday blasting through her headphones, straight into the path of a number 19. But Jane was never one to leave without a fight. In fact, I can't quite believe that she's actually left me to have the last word. Outside in the garden, where weeds rained rampant, a sudden burst of wind, soft as a scornful laugh, shook the leaves of the old apple tree and died with a sigh.
Thank you for listening, and over to Bruce for his thought for the day.
Good morning, my name is Bruce Allinson, Methodist minister here in Selsey. This morning I just want to share with you another psalm, Psalm 25, verses 16 to 17. It's a cry of help to God. Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. Relieve the troubles of my heart and bring me out of my distress. I started off by saying that this is a cry of help to God, which it is, but surely it's a cry of help to us and ourselves also. It's pointless us sitting there saying, I'm lonely and I don't know what to do. Selsey is one of the greatest places I think I've worked in. There is so much opportunity for people to get involved and to get out and about. The Venture Bus scheme, for a very small amount per year, £10, we have the bus that will take you around to all the clubs and various things that go on in and around Selsey, including shopping at Chai. So we can get out and about if we make the effort to contact, and we don't know where you are unless you let us know. With a winter coming on that could be very cold and very dangerous for us all because of prices going up and up in the energy field, we could find ourselves having to choose between heat or eating. Briefly said that the food bank is out there and can actually help in that difficult decision. But you also need to get out and about and meet people. Make the effort, phone up, find out what's going on, ring the Venture Bus, get some idea of what you can do. They'll take you out on Sundays to churches, throughout the weeks to very many different clubs. Make use of it. Keep it going. Get out, make friends. And to those of us who are more fit and active over this winter, I want to say to you, really, keep an eye on those around you who perhaps don't get out as much. See if you're able to help them with a bit of shopping, help them perhaps with a meal. Make friends with your neighbours. As a kid, everybody knew who lived next door. It's sad that we all want that, but we don't work at it. Let's make this year the year that we care. Get involved with your neighbours, get involved with clubs. Be there for those in need, because one day it could be us. In His name, Amen.